Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of my channel. Today I will be talking about 5 new beginner tips for new drivers for Uber or Lyft, but it mainly is going to apply to Uber because this is what I learned from driving for Uber, and that was my primary app when I was driving, okay? So, let's get started. And before we get started, could you, if you guys could do me a favor and like, share, or comment, or subscribe to my channel, and I will be sure to be back with you with more valuable content on how to drive and how to drive more efficiently when you're driving for Uber, okay? So the first tip we're gonna get into is you don't need that new of a car or that fancy of a car. Okay, so before you drive and before you think about even buying a new car or leasing a new car just to drive, you might want to think again because when it comes down to it, it's really all gonna come down to how much business expenses you're gonna have and how much money you're gonna make, okay? So the vehicle requirement at the time of this video is that your car needs to be 15 years old or newer. Okay, so right now we're in 2018, so if your car is at least 2003 right now, it's gonna qualify for you to drive for Uber, and as long as you're 21 years old with your car meeting that requirement. So I drove a car that's kind of within that range. It's definitely not as new as the 2017s, 2018s, but I did not get a new car just to drive for Uber. I just thought that would have been after driving for 2 years, and when I look back now and see all the depreciation that I have put on my car, thank God I did not get a new car just to drive for Uber. Okay, so if you are thinking about getting a new car or getting a fancy car just to drive, you might want to think again. So if you're going to put a lot of depreciation on your car at the end of it, okay? So second, you are going to have to think of a time to drive for Uber, okay? So in my opinion, after driving for 2 years, you are going to have these time slots where, it's going to be very busy to drive and, you're going to, get some really good rides, okay? So you might want to think about that. So in my opinion, there's going to be 3 big time blocks during the day. So you're going to have your morning rush, which, people are going to work. I never used to wake up for that. I mean, that was just way too early for me. You are going to have your afternoon rush, which would be, anywhere about 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. That is when everyone gets off work, okay? And then you're going to have your late night time block, which would be like, I don't know, after 10 to maybe 2 o'clock. That's also very busy, but for people who are, either leaving the club or, getting out from dinner. So that's also a good time to drive. So, before you go out and drive, you want to think about, which of these time blocks is best for you. Now, for me, I used to drive during the afternoon block because, it's just my most preferred time block to drive. I mean, for one, because I was mainly taking people from work and to, their homes or to the airport. So I really like that because for one, people are sober. 2, you have daylight. So, if you like driving at night, maybe this is not the time for you, but I actually like driving when it's bright outside and you don't have to worry too much about who's getting into your car. Okay, so that really made sense for me. Okay, so that was the second one. You want to think about the time that you want to drive. Third, you want to have a consistent strategy. Okay, this is, driving, you do not want to have that many variables every day just to make, the money that you're trying to make. So for me, before I was trying to make $100 every day. And, the way I make that $100 is I want to have a consistent route. Okay, so I can actually, there's not too much variation in my route. You would, learn to appreciate that because, you're trying to make a set amount of money every day and you don't want, to be everywhere all the time. You want to have, a consistent route. So, for example, if I was living in Pasadena, I drive in the LA market. I usually have my route set to LAX, so that will be about 30 miles. It will give me about an average of $30. Sometimes a little less, and sometimes quite a bit more. Okay, and from LAX, I would, pick up a ride, no problem. It's LAX. There's always people there. And then, from LAX to wherever, and then I will use a destination filter to go back home. So that would usually give me $100 a day. Okay, so you have your set limit or your set amount of money that you want to make every day. Just have a consistent route that makes it work. Okay, you don't want to be just everywhere, like anywhere, and that could be pretty frustrating, at least for me. Okay, so that was number 3. Have a good route, a consistent route. 4th kind of ties in with number 3. Okay, so you want to think about the places and the part of town that will work best for you. Okay, so this, just kind of ties up with my route. I knew, a lot of people are going to be going from my area of town in Pasadena. It's pretty industrial. It has a lot of corporate buildings. So, I was not in a shortage of rides going to the airport or where I need to be. Once I'm at the airport, again, that's a very good place to pick up more rides. So, and then from the airport, going to wherever, and then just having a set destination back to, where I need to be, going back home. So, you definitely want to plan the places that you want to be and try to stay away from the places that you don't want to be. Because again, you are getting paid based on the miles that you drive. So that's your primary source of, your revenue. It's like for every mile you drive, that is the bulk of what you're earning, not the time that you're stuck in traffic. Okay, so when you're stuck in traffic, you're getting paid a fraction of the revenue that you would earn from, driving per mile. So I think, before, I just want to give an estimate. It was like about 15 cents a minute versus you used to get paid about, I'm just going to estimate again, it's going to be about 75 cents a mile after the Uber deductions. Okay, so, which one would you rather to have more? Would you rather be stuck in traffic for 5 minutes just to make up for 1 mile of, your rate? So you definitely want to think about that. My preference was, always just get on the freeway because you're stuck in traffic less. You're going at a lot, you're picking up a lot more mileage and you're stuck in traffic less. Okay, so that's a more efficient way of driving. Okay? That was the 4th one. Think about the places you want to be and think about the places you want to stay away from. So my recommendation would be, you want to be at the places where you can pick up a lot more miles and less traffic. That would be ideal. Number 5, you want to reduce waiting time. So, if either you're driving part-time or, in my case, I was driving nearly full-time, I want to reduce the amount of waiting time, okay? Because when you're just operating your own business and you really have to think about that way when you're driving for Uber, you're operating your own business. So time is very much money. However, you can reduce the amount of waiting time because you're not getting paid to wait. You're getting paid to drive, right? So however you can reduce that amount of waiting time, is going to be the most ideal for you. So this kind of ties back to the time, place, and route that you want to think about before you drive. Because the time is going to dictate how much, how many requests are coming in at a time, okay? So if you drive during those really rush hours, you're going to get quite a substantial amount of more requests than during off hours, okay? So comparing, like a 2 p.m. in the afternoon versus a 5 p.m. in the afternoon, which one do you think is going to get you more requests and require to wait less between requests? It's going to be the 5 p.m., okay? So think about that. Also, the place that you are going to be is also going to dictate the amount of waiting time that you are going to experience. Okay, so if you always end up in residential zones versus if you pick yourself to end up at LAX or like downtown, which one do you think is going to give you ride requests a lot, more consistently? It's going to be downtown or the airport. It's not going to be, if you keep ending up in residential zones, I mean, you're going to have to drive around or wait around some more to actually get the same amount of requests. Okay? And also, this was, I wish I could have known this when I first started driving, but the time you get your first request is also very important, okay? If you have a lot of time and you're just waiting at home or you're waiting in your office and you could be doing something while you're waiting for that first good request, do that. Don't go and drive to get your first request if you don't have to. If you're already living in a pretty good area where you can pick up consistent requests for your first ride, that's very important. You could be sitting at home, you can be working on whatever you need to work on or working on whatever you need to work on in the office, and you're waiting for your first ride. You're going to get that ride, and you're doing whatever you need to do anyway, so you're not being unproductive while you're waiting for your first ride, right? So, that's going to be very important. I made that mistake when I first started driving. It's like I want to drive to Union Station to pick up my first ride. That is, just huge problem because now I'm taking time and gas to pick up my first ride versus if I was just waiting at home or office and just doing whatever I need to do to be productive while waiting for my first ride. That's going to help save me a lot of time and money. Okay? So these are the 5 things you want to think about when you first start driving for Uber, or even if you're an experienced driver and you need a better strategy. So I hope this brought a lot of value to you. If it did, please remember to give me a thumbs up, a share, or even, give me some feedback in my video description below, and I will be sure to be back with you with more content like this. Also, if you're a new driver or if you're considering to drive for Uber, I have left my referral link in the video description below. I believe at the time of this video is if you finish 55 rides, they will guarantee you that you will make $350. So if you sign up with my link below, I will also get a bonus at no extra cost to you when you finish that criteria. Okay? So I will appreciate it. Thank you very much. We will be back with you with another video just like this.